Hey, this is DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas, and you're listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KZZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our program and perhaps watch if you have access to videos such as on Facebook or YouTube Live. This is the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and also the founder of OneBestConsult.com. We've got a really jam-packed show today, and I don't want to take too much time in our introduction because we've got some wonderful guests. We have Mr. Doug Thorpe coming back today. Went out and visited with him, had a great conversation about building your team and building trust and how important that is and how it can pay off in a big way for you as a business owner. So look forward to that, and then some other comments. We have the mailbag, and we'll delve into that type of stuff. But one of the things I want to touch on very briefly, I like to do something at the beginning of the show, is the employment situation. Everywhere I go, at least here in Texas, Montgomery County and surrounding areas, every business owner I talk to is looking for employees. It's an amazing situation. Some are entry level, some have skill sets, but there's a huge disconnect because I don't believe there should really be any gainful unemployment right now based on just my sample of going around and visiting with people, email exchanges, organizations, groups I participate in. So my point back to you, and it's one of these principles that I repeat and repeat and repeat. One is, I don't believe you should ever stop looking for new employees. Even if you're 100%, you've got every position filled, you should never stop looking, meaning one, keep your ears open. As you go through your day, as you go different places, you never know when you're going to hear about someone who would have a skill, the mindset that would fit in your organization. And two, I believe once a month, whether you have one employee or 100, that you need to take an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half, and throw the net out. In other words, do some advertising somewhere. You don't spend a lot of money these days online, and just see what comes in. Keep your finger on the pulse of employment. Don't get caught with nothing to work with. I saw a business the other day, I believe it was White Castle Hamburgers. They're going back in old applications back 3 years and reaching out to people that want to work in a fast food operation that they didn't hire at the time for various reasons, and they're seeing if they're available. So don't get caught short. Look for employees. Also, a reminder, email. We love to receive emails from folks who are listening to the program, comments about the show, questions for one of our guests or an issue that we bring up, or just a question about your business. I've got 40 plus years working in small business, had multiple businesses, built them up, grew them, and sold them off. And I enjoy talking business, particularly with business owners, business managers. So please send us an email. It's real simple. Just send it to onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's onebestconsult@gmail.com. So without further delay, let's take a look at the conversation, a look and a listen to the conversation we had recently with Mr. Doug Thorpe at dougthorpe.com and talking about building teams and the trust they have for you and your objectives in your business. So let's take a listen, and I'll be back at the end to talk to you a little further. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us on the Weekly Business Hour. We're out on the road, so to speak, again today, and we're dropping by to see a good friend of the show, Mr. Doug Thorpe. Doug's been on the program before. He offers a tremendous amount of experience and expertise, in particular, working with people, teams, and how to grow your business through your people. And I think that's probably the single most important asset any business typically has. But Doug is a nationally recognized business coach, consultant. He's a writer, written books, and he speaks to audiences around the country. So, Doug, thanks for joining us again today.
Well, you're welcome, Rick, and it's a pleasure to be back on this show, and thank you for having me.
Well, you've created something that really interests me, and that's your team trust model, which, you go through it, and I want to put out a warning to everybody listening, because when you look at it at first glance, it's meant for the corporate world, where we have work teams doing this, projects. But I took it and went through it as a small business owner, trying to build up my team, meaning all my employees potentially, and how they can function better as a group. So there's a lot of great information in there for the smallest business that has 1, 2, 3, 5, 20 employees, as well as larger businesses where you actually can break groups of people up. So, Doug, without any further delay, let's talk about the team trust model.
Yeah, you bet. So let me start with a little kind of foundational thought process here. If we look at our lives, we know that we do our best with people that we trust. As Bob Berg has said in a couple of his books, we like to do business with people that we know, like, and trust. Well, the same is true really in our personal existence. I mean, those of you that have ever been on the dating scene with maybe the goal to find a significant other, what are you doing? You're deciding if you meet somebody, you want to get to know them. You first decide if you like them, and then you start digging for the elements of trust. Can I really trust this person to be significant in my life for the long haul? And that trust idea really permeates everything we do. I mean, ultimately, I had a colleague point out to me that even young children in school, if they don't feel that they can trust the environment, they're going to shut down. They're going to disengage. They're going to disconnect from the teacher, from the classroom, and they're not going to learn. So it is such a vital part of our existence is to have that sense of trust. Okay?
Well, and it's something interesting, just as everyone who listens to this program, either live or on recorded video cast, podcast, trust is a huge challenge in today's world with pandemics and political situations. And so I think your advice and your information is even more critical to me as a business manager, business owner, than perhaps it was a few years ago, because we got a lot of work to do.
It really is. And when you talk to owners or executives, and you made mention of it, and I'll reinforce the idea, what I want to talk about here is not limited to the large Fortune 500 type environment. It's true in the small business. And it works in just the very basic relational situation. As the saying goes, where two or more are gathered, there needs to be that element of trust. And let me interject, as I had been working with this model and coaching my clients through it, in parallel, there was an interesting release a couple of years ago. The good folks at Google did their own internal study. The question on their mind was, why do some of our teams perform so much better than others? We are famous for our hiring process. We pick the best of the best. And if you put those good people on teams, why don't all teams knock it out of the park? Well, they embarked on a 2-year study. You can look it up. It's called Project Aristotle. That's the title they gave it. Their findings indicated that the number one differentiator on high-performing teams versus not high-performing was something they called psychological safety. And when you go through all the narrative on that, they're talking about trust. Do I have a sense of trust when I show up for work? Can I reveal my innermost thoughts and beliefs and not be ridiculed or condemned for what I'm saying? So it's that psychological safety, or what common man would call trust, is the really big element that comes to play. So when I talk to business leaders, here's the challenge. You can philosophically agree that trust is an issue. You can acknowledge that your own assessment of your work team might suggest that trust is lacking or lagging. And then they walk away from that discussion going, well, what do I do? So, I don't know what I do. Well, the work I've been doing in this space, I think, helps answer that question. So let me, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get this up here for you. Um, what the, yeah, okay, you can see that okay?
Absolutely. Looks great.
So what this model says is there's a very fundamental understanding to get us started here. What this says is that all of us show up at work or in life for that matter with questions on our mind. And in a work setting, these questions can be grouped into 6 primary areas. And if you as a leader will focus your effort on creating answers and having discussions with your people about each of these 6 areas, the more you can do to create good answers for these questions, the more likely your people will begin to feel trust at work. So the 6 questions, we start up in the upper left there. The first one I call the people group. And it's a very basic question. Do I even want to be here? You know, somebody says they get up in the morning, do I even want to go to work? And obviously there are big drivers that could influence that mindset. But that's a very real question. And what you're going to find is that as we work our way around this wheel, the questions get a little more complex and a little more involved. And there is a notion of your people can regress. They can be making progress, kind of growing and building their trust, but then something will happen and it'll knock them down a peg or two or send them all the way back to go at question 1, do I even want to be here?
You know, it's interesting, Doug, to me, when I look at this, because really we're talking a great deal about fit. In other words, does the team fit together? And it is amazing because I've done a lot of hiring, particularly at entry level positions, sales and things. And you find somebody who of themselves can be a great performer, but they're that solo, the one who works better by themselves. And how do you fit those kind of people into a team, or do you?
You definitely do. There are clearly in running a business, there are clearly layers of complexity that come in, and the whole notion of having a good, robust hiring process to identify the talent you need and the fit for the team that already exists. I do know there are a lot of programs and assessment tools that employers are using now to try to dive in a little bit to personality type assessment, skill set assessment, aptitude assessments, many things like that to determine whether the fit is going to be good. But my basic answer to your question is absolutely. Your hiring has to serve the greater good of your own vision of your team. You have to be cognizant of that. You have to be sensitive to that as you go through the process.
Right.
Yep. So let's move on to number 2 here. 2 is the question about purpose. People are going to wonder, what is this team here to do? Or in the case of a small business, what are we really trying to achieve here? And, in a franchise model, those objectives might be pretty clear, but maybe they're not. Maybe the owner manager is not doing a good job of articulating values. Values like customer service or quality control or timing and reliability. There are values that businesses try to aspire to deliver. They'll publish it in their brand statements, but getting the teams to rally around that objective is often a challenge for leaders to communicate effectively. Leaders have to be able to explain to their teams what a win looks like. Here are our expectations. If you don't understand, ask a question. Let's be crystal clear on our purpose. So that's that step.
And I consider that probably one of the most important steps and the one most easily overlooked in business. But we need to take a break here. Believe it or not, we're through the first segment. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break in this conversation. I guess, Doug, when we come back, we'll move on to step 3 in the remainder of the program. So please stay with us, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll continue this interview and conversation with Mr. Doug Thorpe.
Second Saturday Divorce Workshop provides unbiased information to help you understand your options and move forward with your life. This divorce workshop is for you if you are contemplating divorce, in the process of divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact SecondSaturdayWoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service has been dedicated to educating Texans for over a century. In 1915, the Extension Program was established under the federal Smith-Lever Act to deliver university knowledge and agricultural research findings directly to the people. Ever since, AgriLife Extension programs have addressed the emerging issues of the day, serving diverse populations across the state. Texans turn to Extension for solutions in horticulture, agriculture, 4-H and youth, and family and consumer sciences. Extension agents respond not only with answers, but also with resources and services that result in significant returns on investment to boost the economy. Join us Fridays at 1 o'clock for the AgriLife Extension Hour.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As earlier, we've stopped in to visit with a good friend of our show, Mr. Doug Thorpe, who's a nationally recognized coach and leader in training your team to be better and produce much higher results. And we're talking about the team trust model. Well, Doug, continue our journey. On the slide, we're on number 3, the plan. So let's see where we go from here.
Yeah, Rick. So again, just to quickly recap and reiterate, the whole basis of this team trust model is the notion that employees show up with basic questions in their mind about the work environment and the situation. And all of those questions that you can ever fathom break into these 6 areas. We talked about people and purpose. Now we're on to number 3, which is the plan. A leader has to craft the plan for how you're going to execute on the purpose. And people might rally around the idea and they might really get excited by the cause, but if they don't see a clear path through the jungle, so to speak, they're going to break down. They're going to lose trust in the ability to execute. So that's why the plan is so important. And I'm often asked by leaders, can I have my team collaborate on building the plan? Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. The point is you just have to have it. You've got to do it. You got to build that plan. Then moving on, number 4 is what I call the practice. This is actually getting out on the job. This is in the shop, in the field, at your desk. This is the step where rubber meets the road. You get to work. And often what happens, the purpose is great, the plan's great, people are all energized, and immediately they run into constraints and restrictions on getting their job done. Maybe it's bad tools, maybe it's in a bigger company, maybe it's a company policy that all of a sudden shuts them down. So there are so many things that can interrupt the practice, and you need to be able to have ongoing dialogue with your people about the practice and the experience they're having trying to get the work done. As a leader, you've got to clear those roadblocks. You have to do everything you can to clear that path so your people have a good runway to get the work accomplished. Number 5 is the question of performance. If I do all this work, how am I going to be judged? How is score going to be kept? How is feedback going to happen? What am I going to be called to task on? What are the accountability systems that are going to be in play? All of those things can be very disruptive to building high performance and high trust across the team. People can buy in, they can get the plan, they can know the work, but if there's any doubt about the way they're going to be measured, they're going to tend to hold back. And lastly, number 6 is the payoff. And I'm always quick to caution payoff is not limited to compensation, although that's the big one everybody typically looks at first. But payoff can also mean just a sense of pride and accomplishment. We built a brand, we represent something, we're happy to be here, and that gives the momentum to people to ask the question, am I willing to continue? Yes, by all means. I like what we're doing here. I want to do more. When you have your team hitting on all 6 of these cylinders, so to speak, you'll start to experience a kind of a hum, kind of a momentum in your business. And I have had leaders tell me that they can feel that hum out on the floor, out in the office, when people are engaged, they're operating with high trust, they've got good answers to all of these questions, they are going to be in high gear.
As I go through this again, I sit with my eyes are small business owner, and I'm thinking about a client I worked with some years ago. In fact, I was involved in a business with them, and we had to set up a small manufacturing or assembly line. We had a half a dozen people who came. He says, I hire people that really don't necessarily have the skills, but I'm looking for putting things together with people somewhat in a very simple, rough way, what you're doing. And he proceeded to build this team, and it was amazing. And then he put them on a quarterly bonus plan that, what you send out, products went all over the world, doesn't come back. You get so many dollars in the pool, deduction for what comes back. And it represented 20-30% of their income. And this was for production people, and which was, I'd never heard of that, but his whole point, he built it around building that team, and it was compensation, but that was just part of it. It was day in and day out. And I walked away from that so impressed of someone who took the time and built the plan effectively, told them what the goals were, et cetera, et cetera. So this stuff really does work. It's good stuff for any business to consider implementing throughout their organization.
Well, and there are a couple of leadership principles that are implied by this, but as I work with clients, I always coach them specifically. Obviously, communication jumps out. As a leader, you have to communicate your answers to these questions. The empathetic listening and collaboration with your team are high value leadership attributes. The ability to either have a group meeting or one-on-ones to probe and ask questions of the people. How are you doing? Do you understand our mission? Are you feeling constrained in any way? Are there issues you need me to help you with? Those kinds of leadership questions have to be in flight there. The interesting thing about this, there's a dynamic. All of us come to work with 2 levels of capacity. We have our kind of willingness to pitch in and get the job done, just so, to put it bluntly, just so we don't get fired. We hit the minimums and we tick the boxes, whatever they may be. But there's another gear, there's another level that I call discretionary effort. It's that reserve of energy and motivation that can be the give a little extra, the 110% kind of thing. The more you can satisfy these questions for your team, and the team senses that across the board with their colleagues, the more likely they're going to dip into that discretionary effort and give that little extra day by day, not just once in a while, but on a pretty regular basis.
Well, and one of the great things that comes out of that so many people, the term, I like my job, I enjoy my job, I like to go to work, I like to get up in the morning. And people, I think so many times I've found business owners, particularly those that are entrepreneurial, they tend to get it, but others who maybe buy a franchise or whatever, they have a little bit more learning curve, realizing that that's just pure feedback on how you're doing in running your team, your group of employees. And got to have our eyes and ears open all the time. If somebody's not speaking out to me as an employee and pointing out things, whether they're good or bad or whatnot, that was always my measure of I wasn't being successful. So it's very important communication element that you mentioned.
That's right. And the clarity of that communication. A lot of times leaders feel like they can stand up in the group and make a statement or make a directive, and that's all people need to get going. But if you're the least bit objective about it, you realize that's not always true. You have to double back and you have to affirm what you said, and you have to get feedback from your people that they got it, they understand it, and they're fully engaged with it.
Yeah, I think that might work in Hollywood in a movie.
Yeah.
Or there's been some great orations, but you're 100% right. The ability to integrate yourself with the people, with the team as a leader, and get that continuous feedback. And it doesn't necessarily mean a very serious conversation every day. It just, again, the comments that people make, or they stop and they do this, they say, hey, really did this yesterday or whatever. I have been in businesses where you walk in as a stranger and you sense that, even starting at the front desk. And typically, if not 100% of the time, those businesses are run well and do well in good times and bad. It's just amazing.
That's right. That's right. Like I said, when this is working, it is palpable. You can feel it in the room or out on the shop floor when the team is fully engaged and operating at this level.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. If people want to engage with you to learn more about this particular issue, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to my website, which is real easy. It's dougthorpe.com, and that's Thorpe with an E. And there's a tab there that fully elaborates on the model, and also contact forms if you want to schedule a kind of a complimentary chat to talk about your business and your team concerns. Happy to help.
Well, I would encourage folks, again, particularly in this area, I think this is a keystone matter. One of the main pillars of a successful business is being able to build that trust element and building a cohesive group of individuals who are there for a lot more than punching a clock or earning a check, because you've got to make your work if you want to be highly successful. And I say that I've met a few business people in my life that were just happy with the status quo, and I get that. That's why you own the business. You do it your way. So. Any other pearls of wisdom to leave us with as we kind of wind down today, Doug?
Well, I'll just share one thing, a little bit of a tease maybe. If people will jump over to my website and join the newsletter, I've got an announcement rolling out in the next couple of months. We are building a training app that covers this program. So owners will be able to buy the program and share it with their teams, get it implemented across the whole company, and that will be on the streets in just a couple of months.
Well, that's an exciting announcement to be able to do it on you. I assume it's self-directed in a sense.
Self-directed, self-paced, and available on all mobile devices and desktops.
Boy, that's fantastic. Well, Doug, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us and invite us in. And again, some amazing material, very important education here, and your expertise and experience really can make a difference for a business owner or someone who heads up a team. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our conversation with Mr. Doug Thorpe. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you will stay with us, we're going to go back to our regular program. And again, Doug, goodbye and see you in the near future.
All right, Rick. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the conversation that we had with Doug. I think it's very informative, and I would encourage you to perhaps, when you have some time, to go take a look at what Doug's presented. I'm going to do a simple recap after the commercial break about what I think are the key points he made. So I encourage you, stay with us. Come back. We'll have a recap. We'll dip into the mailbag. Had a wonderful question show up there this week from one of our listeners. And then we'll close out today with our tip of the week. What do you do if you get sued? Now, that doesn't sound good, but stick around. I've got some advice for you that might be extremely happen if, unfortunately, that ever happens to you.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dan Simon, Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler. I'm your host of the program today, and we're going into the second half of the show now, and we'll get, just in a second, we'll go to Doug Thorpe's presentation. I'll offer you a couple key observations that I have. Go back into the mailbag. As I mentioned earlier, got a great question in there. Hopefully I can provide a great answer to it, and then we'll finish out with our tip of the One Best Consult tip of the week. But before I do that, I want to remind you that a replay of the show is always available. It comes out a few days after the live show each Monday at 11, and you can go to YouTube, you can go to Facebook, look up the page, The Weekly Business Hour. It's all over social media. You can go to onebestconsult.com, the website, go to the radio station, Lone Star Community Radio. I encourage you, share that replay with some of your fellow business owners. Hopefully we're providing you information, ideas, and tips that you can use right today in your business. So let's cut to that recap that we have of our interview with Mr. Doug Thorpe. You know, it's interesting. Doug has done a lot of great work in the area of leadership and motivating people, building teams, which means in many cases small business, it's all your employees, they're your team. Larger businesses have teams working in different areas such as accounting, production, and so on and so forth. But I encourage you first, go take a look at that model that he presented. It's real easy. Just go to Doug Thorpe, and that's Thorpe with an E.com, and hit the tab, and you'll get a chance to look at that trust model, the team trust model, 6 steps. It's very simple to understand, and I encourage you, look at the model, if you would, just for a brief period of time, as it applies to your entire business. So you're a small business owner, I would look at it as it applies to your entire business. So you've got 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 employees. Look at that model and think about what might be accomplished if you just went through those 6 steps with yourself and with the folks that work for you. Can you build and strengthen the trust of those people have in your business? Because you need that trust, right, in order to get the best from all the people that work with you. And when you get the best, the highest performance, your business is performing better. Your business is more valuable. Your business is more fun to be around, to work in, to associate with people. Customers like you better. Vendors want to do business with you when you do that. And I personally will guarantee you, if you walk through those steps and follow that model at your own pace, that you will eventually build a better business, and you will be able to see it not only on the bottom line, but just feel it as you walk around. So if you're going to do it, there's 2 things I think are really, really important. The first one is make sure your employees understand the purpose of your business and what that you're trying to accomplish with the business. And what I'm saying is go beyond that, well, we make widgets, right? We build this, we serve this. That's easy. That should be a given, right? To something like, we want to be the market leader in plain widgets, and then develop some metrics. In fact, you see it under the performance step, that everybody can understand, that you can post and share. You know, we want to be the market leader. What does that mean? Well, it means 1,000 plain widgets every week. And we're currently doing 500, and track that. Now, that's a simple example, but I guarantee you, if you will do this and follow the other steps, you will find a real change in your business, and you will see much better performance and a much better attitude in your business. And the other thing I want to emphasize about Doug's model from a personal point of view and experience is build the plan including your employees in putting the plan together. Now, it might not be the whole plan, but make sure that everyone has a chance to comment. Make sure that everyone is educated, at least to the simple plan. Now, you may have a much more complex with action plans and this and that, but everyone needs to understand the plan, right? It's all about buy-in. It's about people understanding why they're there. Yes, I'm there to punch a clock, but every survey I've ever seen of why employees work for a company, why employees leave a company, compensation is down the list at 5, 6, 8 of the priorities. There's a lot of stuff above it, and this is what we're indirectly talking about. So thank you, Doug, for being with us. I appreciate it. Let's switch gears just for a moment, and I want to talk to you about this mailbag item I got. It's really kind of interesting. Bill W., apparently a regular listener of this program. He listens to it on the internet since he's out of the area that our FM covers. And he asked me this question, really an open-ended one. What one piece of business advice can you offer me that could make a big difference in the operation of my business today? What one piece? Now, that is an interesting question. So what is your best idea that you have right now that could help me in my business? Well, I think the best thing you can do is build a performance-driven culture if you haven't already done it. And this is kind of what Doug was talking about as well in using the trust model. It's one way to approach it. This starts, though, with specific goals for yourself and for your employees, okay? So you got to be able to communicate with them and be very specific about the goals. Back to the example I just gave in responding to Doug's piece, you've got goals. You want to do 1,000 widgets. That's what it takes to be the market leader, and you're at 500, so you got a specific goal. Going to build this to 500, then break it down into pieces, 600, 700, 800, so on and so forth. But you want to make sure that if you have a 10-year goal for your business, and it may be that you exit, that you have 3-year, 1-year shorter goals that you can share with your people and get them to buy into those goals. And they need to be very specific, not just that we want to sell more widgets, okay? The second thing is you need to set those up and make them, again, easy to follow, easy to understand for every employee that works for you. And this could include people who you contract with. And don't ever forget that. We have a lot of contractors out there, a lot of independent contractors, and it's important that they buy in to what you're doing. So you've got to somehow, even if they're part-time, they've got to have a set of goals that work with your goals so it all comes together. Because when it does, it's amazing what you're able to see. Again, not just on the bottom line, but the functioning of the business day to day. So you have to have some way that everyone in the business knows, well, we're up to $550 a week, or we're up to $750 a week. We're moving. They're getting, some companies, they actually do a dashboard on the computer and a piece of software. It's simple, and it keeps track of those kind of metrics, the ones that you're willing as an owner to share. So everybody can keep an eye on where we're going. You know, the old United Way thing where you had the thermometer, and as you raised the money, the red line went up, 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 up. Same thing. People need to get some feedback on their performance. And if you can do it on a daily basis, that's fantastic. It's not required, but again, you want to motivate everybody to pull the same way. We've heard that all our lives. But in this case, I'm pushing a little farther. I'm pushing people to perform day in and day out at the highest level possible. So the team, all the employees perform at this highest level, because that will produce the best results for the company. So again, thanks, Bill, for the question. And that's my advice. The one thing I would say today is set yourself up, your company, to be a performance-driven company and develop the culture that'll make it happen. Okay, we're going to take our break now. I encourage you to continue to listen. We'll come back with our One Best Consult Tip of the Week. What do you do if you're sued? So I encourage you to stay with us. Don't forget, send us an email. You got a question, got a comment, got your question about your own business. Just send it to onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's onebestconsult@gmail.com. Thanks.
Does your company have needs that can be met by an employee who is dependable, hardworking, enthusiastic, motivated, cooperative, respectful, and punctual? Conroe Independent School District Special Education Department can meet your needs by connecting you with potential employees that have been preparing for a lifetime of employment. We have numerous individuals seeking paid and unpaid work experiences. If your company is interested in seeing how we can meet your business needs, call Conroe ISD Special Education Department to find the best employees for you at 936-709-7671.
Hey, this is Wayne Green, your host for Radio Wayne, Spoke and More. Each Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m., I'll be playing folk, singer-songwriter, Americana, blues, bluegrass, classic country, Cajun Zydeco, Celtic swing, and whatever else seems to fit. Once again, that's Radio Wayne, Spoke and More, every Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler. We're in the final segment of our program today on the Weekly Business Hour. And before we get started with our tip of the week, I want to mention a couple of things too. One is you as a business owner or a business manager can sponsor the Weekly Business Hour. In particular, if you're here in the Montgomery County area, Conroe, Texas, where we're broadcasting live from, you can put your business out there through the Weekly Business Hour. All you need to do is drop me an email. Send it to rick@irlonestar.com, or you can send it to my email address at onebestconsult@gmail.com. I'll send you some information. It's simple, and we deeply appreciate the sponsors we have on local business organizations and individuals. Remember, Lone Star Community Radio is a nonprofit community radio station, so your contribution toward advertising is a donation and therefore fully deductible. So consider that. And consider turning to Lone Star Community Radio when you need a resource or source of information about everything going on in Montgomery County, because it is true community radio dedicated to you and everyone in our community to build a better, healthier, vibrant community of individuals, businesses, and institutions. Well, the One Best Consult Tip of the Week. What to do when you get sued. Someone, in my case, who is a retired former business litigation trial lawyer, civil trial lawyer, I've represented businesses that have been sued. A couple occasions I represented those that were suing under contracts particularly. It is not a place you ever want your business to be. And I tell you, it's difficult. And here I was, a business person who had experience working in businesses, growing up in a family business, and I'm representing, in some case, family businesses, family-owned, generations, several generations in one case, a couple generations in another, that have been sued. But I want to talk a little bit about that and plant some seeds to try to prepare you and your business in case you do get sued. You know, again, one of the most devastating things that happen to a business is to get sued. I read an article recently. It was in Small Biz Ahead. It's a newsletter. It's sent out by the Hartford Insurance Company. And they had a statistic in there that caught my eye. The U.S. Chamber Institute of Legal Reform did a study, and they found that 43% of small businesses were threatened with or engaged in litigation. 43%. That is a lot of people, and means everyone has a chance of being sued at least once during the life of their business, so you need to prepare. The financial hits of the business, yeah, that's important because you've got to hire counsel. You may have insurance, depending on the type of claim, that'll cover the cost of counsel and other things, but it's the emotional toll it takes. All of a sudden, you're in another type of business, if you want to look at it from that perspective, that is not the type of business, not the business that you want to be in and day out. And it sucks your time and energy, and it diverts your resources away from why you're in business. So it's something you really, really want to pay attention to. And I haven't even gotten to the damages. If you lose and you have to pay damages or the other person's legal fees or anything, obviously that stings, and a lot of people talk about it. But I'm telling you, go back to those emotional, that diversion of resource, of focus. It is what, in my opinion, takes typically the biggest toll on the business. Why do small businesses get sued? Well, there's two primary lawsuits, and I saw both of them firsthand, and on both sides, both as a business owner and as an attorney representing other businesses. It's either employees or customers. Now, there are other kinds of lawsuit involving real estate, things like that, car accidents, delivery, whatnot. But this is the primary area. So employees, it happens. We build up a workforce, and all of a sudden something happens and they sue you. In most states, we have workers' comp insurance. And so if you're insured, it covers someone being injured on the job. And there is no liability directly to the business. But if you're not covered, if you don't carry the insurance, like in Texas, it's not required, then they can sue you. They can sue you for compensation for the injury, medical bills, all those kind of things. So it is more, in my opinion, a threat, those where someone just gets disgruntled and they sued you because they feel they were wrongfully terminated. Those kinds of issues are the ones, to me, that are difficult. Let me offer you several different specific types of lawsuits that you might see. Wages, people get terminated, or even if they don't, they say you haven't been paying them fairly. Typically, in the case of Texas, we have a state wage and hour. They can file a complaint there. It doesn't cost them a dime. Don't have to hire a lawyer. But you've got to consider that workplace harassment, hostile work environment. We hear about that all the time, everywhere. I mean, those kind of lawsuits make the news. Violation of the EEOC, fairness and discrimination. We hear about those all the time. The injury we mentioned on the job, wrongful termination, that happens on occasion where someone feels they were wrongly terminated. And then things related to the Immigration and Nationality Act. I mean, these are certain areas that as a business owner we may not be well schooled on, but they're there and we need to be aware of them and do our best to make sure that we tighten up where we need to. Customers can sue us. Discrimination, for an example, under the American Disability Act. We didn't have proper access to the business, a wheelchair ramp, whatever it might be. So if you're doing a retail, you're allowing customers into your building, be aware of that. Slip and fall, you hear about those all the time. If you refuse to serve somebody, we hear about that. Baking cakes and things like that. These are exposures that we have in our business. Defective products. We build a product and ship it across the country, and someone claims it hurt them. It didn't function properly, and it caused an injury, caused mental distress, all these kind of things. What I really want to take a couple of minutes, though, and what I really want to convey to you is, what do you do? Because hopefully you don't get sued on a regular basis. And a lot of times it's a shock and say, what do I do? Well, the first thing is, be sure your business is set up properly. What I'm saying is incorporated. You build some protection in the type of or model of business you are through an LLC, a corporation. If you're a sole proprietor, you put yourself financially in harm's way because they can sue you directly. So be sure you do that. Be careful what you say to customers, employees. I know it's tough. I talk to so many business owners and they just resent, having to walk this line. But it's a reality of being in business, and you need to be aware of that. Be sure you have competent legal help. That's one of my principles of business with every client, with anyone I talk to, is we need qualified professionals, and that includes an attorney. Be sure you find a business attorney, get to know them, trust them, and keep them connected to your business. That doesn't mean you have to pay hourly rates, but take them to lunch every once in a while, or have a drink or whatever. Bring them in, let them tour your place of business. Ask them to do it, pay them to do it, but so they connect. So when something does happen, you can go straight to them and say, what do I do? And they already know about your business. And if you're sued, first thing, call them right away. Call that attorney that you hopefully have developed a relationship with. Collect all the information immediately and put it in a file or on a thumb drive. Collect it. Have it in one place. Because if you can turn it over in an organized manner to your legal counsel and others, your insurance company, the quicker you do it, the more organized it is, the better your claim or concern or lawsuit is going to be handled. Contact your insurer, even if you don't think you might be covered. Check with your agent. Determine if you have coverage. If so, what does it involve? What are your responsibilities under that coverage to communicate? And most importantly, stay calm. Don't let this shake you up because, again, your focus should be on your business. You need to stay engaged in that business the best that you possibly can. I know it's unnerving, but it too shall pass, particularly if you've been prepared for that time when your business gets sued. Well, thank you so much again for joining us this week on the Weekly Business Hour. I hope we provided you with some information, ideas, tips that you can use in your business. Don't forget, if you got questions about the show, something we discussed, one of our guests, or just about your business, send them to me. Please send them to me. I love opening that mailbag, and I do respond to each and every email that I receive. Sometimes we even talk about it on the show. So send them to onebestconsult@gmail.com, onebestconsult@gmail.com. And in the meantime, as I try to tell every business owner that I meet everywhere I go, the most important thing you can do is enter the new week, be focused on what's important to your business, then you will find the success that you're searching for. So thanks, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next Monday, 11 a.m.